woke is a poison apple, and Disney have had a big bite of it.
Snow White breaks records for the lowest live-action remake opening ever.
They're projected to lose between $200 and $400 million.
Disney had ambitious plans for a live-action remake of Tangled, a project that had generated considerable excitement among fans.
But all of a sudden, after the backlash to Snow White after it bombs at the box office, yeah, we're going to put that on the back burner. We're going to stop doing that. We're going to put a pause on this project.
Now it seems that a ton of female-led films could be screwed over because Snow White flopped, which is so funny to me because they really were banking on Rachel Zegler's movie to be a hit. They needed it to make $1 billion, and it is not even going to come close.
In a world where beloved fairy tales are being rewritten, one actress has sparked a firestorm of controversy. Rachel Zegler, the star of Disney's live-action Snow White, recently made headlines with her bold comments about the classic character. But what does this mean for the future of Disney's iconic princesses? Buckle up, because the story is getting on another level. Before we proceed with Disney's future plans, let's recap for uninitiated what has led to this.
Rachel Zegler was so unlikable, said she hated Snow White, mocked the fact that there was a prince, and that she falls in love as opposed to leaning into her own power.
It all started when Rachel Zegler, the actress cast as Snow White in Disney's live-action remake, made headlines for her controversial comments about the original 1937 film. In interviews, Zegler described the classic as weird and creepy, sparking outrage among Disney fans who hold the original in high regard. Her remarks were perceived as not just a critique of the film, but also an affront to the legacy of a character that has been cherished for generations. Fans took to social media, expressing their discontent and labeling her as a spoiled, entitled narcissist, arguing that her attitude undermines the very essence of the character she's meant to portray. The backlash intensified when Zegler went on to criticize the romantic elements of the story, suggesting that Snow White's relationship with Prince Charming was outdated and problematic. She claimed that this new version of Snow White would be a modern take, where the character does not need a man to define her worth. While many appreciate the push for female empowerment, Zegler's comments struck a nerve with fans who felt that the heart of the story was being lost in translation. The idea that a beloved princess could be reimagined as someone who rejects love and companionship was met with skepticism and anger. Critics argued that Zegler's comments reflected a broader trend within Disney to prioritize political correctness over storytelling. Many fans felt that the studio was sacrificing the charm and magic of its classic tales in favor of a modern agenda. The outrage reached a fever pitch as fans began to question why someone who seems to reject the essence of her character was chosen to play such an iconic role. The controversy quickly escalated, with hashtags like Boycott Snow White trending on social media as fans vowed to avoid the film altogether. As the backlash grew, Zegler attempted to clarify her comments, stating that she wanted to bring a fresh perspective to the character. However, her explanations did little to quell the anger. Instead, they fueled further criticism, as many felt that her approach was dismissive of the original story's themes. The situation became a lightning rod for discussions about representation, feminism, and the evolving nature of storytelling in Hollywood. Fans were left wondering if Disney was still capable of creating stories that resonated with audiences, or if they were more focused on pushing a narrative.
Snow White breaks records for the lowest live-action remake opening ever.
They're projected to lose between $200 and $400 million.
As the controversy unfolded, the film's performance at the box office became a hot topic. With a staggering budget of over $270 million, expectations were high for Snow White. Disney had hoped to replicate the success of its previous live-action adaptations, which had garnered both critical acclaim and commercial success. However, the reality was grim. Snow White flopped, grossing only $69 million domestically and $145 million worldwide. This was not just a minor setback, it was a catastrophic failure that sent shockwaves through Disney's financial landscape. Film's poor reception was attributed to a combination of factors, including the negative publicity surrounding Zegler's comments and the drastic changes made to the beloved story. Fans were left scratching their heads, wondering how a story so cherished could be transformed into something that felt so disconnected from its roots. The reimagining of classic characters and storylines, particularly the portrayal of the Seven Dwarfs, raised eyebrows and fueled further criticism. Instead of the traditional dwarfs, the film introduced multiracial, gender-non-specific magical beings, leaving many fans feeling alienated and confused. Moreover, the marketing strategy for Snow White seemed to backfire. The promotional materials emphasized Zegler's modern take on the character, which only served to alienate longtime fans who were looking for a nostalgic experience. The trailer, which was meant to generate excitement, instead became a focal point for criticism, with over 1 million dislikes on YouTube. This unprecedented backlash highlighted a significant disconnect between between Disney's vision and the expectations of its audience. The studio's decision-making process became increasingly scrutinized as fans and critics alike called for a return to the storytelling roots that had made Disney a beloved institution. Many argued that the key to success lay in respecting the original narratives while still allowing for growth and evolution. The challenge was to create stories that felt fresh and relevant without alienating the very audience that had supported Disney for decades. As the conversation surrounding Snow White continued, it became clear that the film's failure was not just a financial loss. It was a cultural moment that highlighted the tensions between tradition and modernity in storytelling. Fans were vocal about their desire for authentic narratives that celebrated the magic of fairy tales without compromising their core themes. But the fallout didn't stop with Snow White.
This chick was already hired to be the blonde girl whose hair was used to get rescued. You know they were going to hire her for this. This is Rapunzel.
Disney had ambitious plans for a live-action remake of Tangled, a project that had generated considerable excitement among fans. With pre-production already underway, the studio was poised to bring the beloved story of Rapunzel to life once again. However, in light of the backlash surrounding Snow White, the studio abruptly pulled the plug on the Tangled project, leaving many to wonder what went wrong. Rumors began swirling about the creative direction the Tangled remake was set to take. Initially, the film was expected to stay true to the whimsical and adventurous spirit of the original animated feature, which had charmed audiences with its humor, romance, and stunning visuals. However, insiders hinted that Disney was considering a more modern twist on the classic tale. Speculation suggested that the studio might have aimed to infuse the story with contemporary themes, potentially sidelining the male lead, Flynn Rider, in favor of a more female-centric narrative. This approach would align with the current trend of reimagining classic stories through a modern lens, but it also raised concerns among fans who feared that the essence of the original story would be lost. Additionally, there were whispers that Disney was looking to cast another woke star in the lead role, someone who would resonate with today's audiences but might also stir controversy. This casting choice could have led to a situation similar to what happened with Zegler in Snow White, where the actress's outspoken views on social issues overshadowed the film itself. Fans speculated that the studio was attempting to balance the need for diversity and representation with the desire to maintain the charm and appeal of the original characters. However, this delicate balancing act often left audiences feeling uneasy about the direction of the project. The decision to cancel Tangled was not just a reaction to the backlash from Snow White, it was also a strategic move by Disney to reassess its approach to storytelling. The studio had faced significant criticism for its recent trend of reimagining classic tales with heavy political undertones, and the poor reception of Snow White served as a wake-up call. By pulling the plug on Tangled, Disney signaled that it was taking the audience's feedback seriously and was willing to reconsider its creative direction. Moreover, the cancellation of Tangled had broader implications for the studio's future projects. With the failure of Snow White fresh in their minds, Disney executives were likely reevaluating their entire slate of live-action adaptations. The studio had previously announced plans for several other remakes, including Lilo and Stitch and Moana, but the backlash against Snow White raised questions about whether audiences would embrace these new interpretations. The fear of repeating past mistakes loomed large, and Disney found itself at a crossroads. In the wake of the cancellation, fans expressed a mix of relief and disappointment. Some were glad to see Disney reconsider its approach, hoping that the studio would return to the storytelling roots that made its animated classics so beloved. Others lamented the loss of what could have been a fresh take on a cherished story, one that could have introduced new themes while still honoring the original. The debate over the direction of the Tangled remake highlighted the ongoing struggle within Disney to balance modern sensibilities with the timeless appeal of its classic tales. Ultimately, the cancellation of Tangled serves as a cautionary tale for Disney. It underscores the importance of listening to audience feedback and recognizing that while progress is essential, it should not come at the expense of the stories that have captured hearts for generations. As Disney navigates this challenging landscape, the fate of Tangled may very well influence how the studio approaches its future projects, reminding them that the magic of storytelling lies in its ability to resonate with audiences on a fundamental level. This brings us to a critical question. What is happening at Disney? The studio has been on a mission to modernize its classic stories, often infusing them with political themes and contemporary messages. While the intention may be to promote diversity and inclusion, the execution has left many fans feeling alienated. The charm of fairy tales seems to be overshadowed by a desire to push a narrative, and audiences are responding with their wallets. The backlash against Snow White is not an isolated incident. It reflects a growing trend where audiences are rejecting films that prioritize social messaging over engaging storytelling. In recent years, Disney has made headlines for its commitment to diversity and representation, often showcasing characters from various backgrounds and cultures. However, this push for inclusivity has sometimes come at the expense of the stories themselves. Critics argue that the studio has become so focused on meeting social expectations that it has lost sight of the fundamental elements that make its stories resonate. The backlash against Snow White serves as a prime example of this disconnect, as audiences felt that the film's focus on empowerment overshadowed the core themes of love and adventure that have traditionally defined Disney princess stories. As Disney grapples with the fallout from Snow White, industry insiders are left wondering whether the studio is genuinely ready to reassess its approach or if it is merely looking for marketing and PR maneuvers to maintain its current trajectory. Some speculate that Disney may be attempting to pivot away from its woke agenda in response to audience backlash, recognizing that the strategy has not yielded the desired results at the box office. The studio's recent decisions to cancel projects, like Tangled, could indicate a willingness to listen to fan feedback and reconsider its creative direction. However, others argue that Disney's commitment to social messaging is deeply ingrained in its corporate identity. The studio has made significant investments in promoting diversity and inclusion, and it may be reluctant to abandon these initiatives entirely. Instead, Disney might be looking for ways to refine its approach, seeking to strike a balance between modern themes and the classic storytelling that fans crave. This could involve rethinking how these themes are integrated into narratives, ensuring that they enhance rather than overshadow the core story. Moreover, the question remains whether Disney can effectively navigate this transition without alienating its progressive audience. The studio has cultivated a following among viewers who appreciate its efforts to address social issues, and any perceived retreat from these values could lead to backlash from that demographic. As a result, Disney may find itself in a precarious position, trying to appease both traditional fans and those who advocate for progressive storytelling. The marketing and PR strategies employed by Disney will play a crucial role in shaping public perception moving forward. The studio may need to adopt a more nuanced approach, emphasizing the timeless elements of its stories while still promoting diversity and inclusion. This could involve highlighting the strengths of the original narratives and showcasing how modern themes can coexist with traditional storytelling. As Disney navigates this challenging landscape, the stakes are high. The studio's reputation and financial success depend on its ability to connect with audiences on an emotional level. If Disney can find a way to honor the past while embracing the future, it may be able to restore the magic that has defined its legacy for generations. However, if it continues to prioritize social messaging over storytelling, it risks alienating a significant portion of its audience, leading to further backlash and declining box office returns. In conclusion, the shift in Disney's direction is a complex and multifaceted issue. While the studio may be reevaluating its approach in light of recent failures, it remains to be seen whether this will lead to a genuine change in strategy or if it is merely a temporary maneuver to placate audiences. The future of Disney's storytelling legacy hangs in the balance, and the choices made in the wake of Snow White will undoubtedly shape the studio's direction for years to come. The response from viewers has been telling. The trailer for Snow White broke records, but not in the way Disney hoped. Over 1 million dislikes flooded in on YouTube, a clear indication that audiences were not on board with this new direction. Fans expressed their frustration, questioning why a story about true love had been transformed into a lecture on modern feminism. The disconnect between Disney's vision and the expectations of its audience has never been more apparent. Many viewers felt that the film's focus on empowerment overshadowed the core themes of love and adventure that have traditionally defined Disney princess stories. The backlash was not just about Zegler's comments. It was a broader critique of Disney's approach to storytelling. Families want entertainment, not a political lecture. The overwhelming negative feedback highlighted a significant shift in audience expectations. Viewers were looking for the magic and wonder that Disney has historically provided, not a rehashing of social issues that felt forced into a beloved narrative. The backlash against Snow White serves as a stark reminder that while audiences appreciate representation and modern themes, they also crave authenticity and the classic storytelling that made Disney a household name. The disconnect between Disney's vision and the expectations of its audience has never been more apparent, leading to a growing sentiment that the studio is out of touch with its core fan base. As the dust settles, the implications for Disney's future are significant. With Snow White underperforming, many are left wondering what this means for other female-led projects in the pipeline. The studio's reputation is at stake, and if they continue to prioritize political messaging over storytelling, they risk losing the trust of their audience entirely. The landscape landscape of family entertainment is shifting, and Disney must adapt or face the consequences. The failure of Snow White could lead to a reevaluation of how Disney approaches its adaptations and original stories moving forward. If the trend of politicizing beloved tales continues, it may alienate a significant portion of the audience that seeks escapism and nostalgia in their cinematic experiences. The studio's challenge lies in finding a way to honor the past while still appealing to contemporary audiences without sacrificing the heart of the stories that fans love. In the end, the cancellation of Tangled serves as a warning shot for Disney. When storytelling takes a backseat to social messaging, audiences notice, and they don't buy tickets out of guilt. If Disney wants to reclaim its status as the king of family entertainment, it must listen to the voices of those who cherish the stories that shaped their childhoods. The magic of Disney is at a crossroads, and the choices made today will determine its legacy for generations to come. As the studio navigates this challenging landscape, it must remember that the heart of storytelling lies in its ability to connect with audiences on an emotional level. Only by returning to the roots of what made Disney great can the studio hope to restore the trust and excitement of its fans. But what do you think? Will Disney learn from their mistakes? Or they will continue to do the same, hoping for a different result? Let us know in the comments below and subscribe for future conversations.